Here are some examples of my gender fluidity being a little. Number 1, feeling like a guy and visiting my relatives. I don't know if you know this, but I am not out to my family. Therefore, when I'm feeling like a guy but I have to present super feminine in front of my relatives, it makes me feel icky inside. Also, gender dysphoria is a bit. Number 2, when suddenly my gender decides to change right before bed. I'll just be vibing, and then it'll be like, binder time. No, Michael, it's not binder time, it's bedtime. Binder time. Number 3, in the frickin' middle of the day. I'll be walking all happily along, and then suddenly, boom, gender change. No, now is not the time, Michael. I have a day to run. I don't need this dysphoria right now. Most of the time, I won't have the resources or capabilities to reduce the gender dysphoria because I didn't bring along with me a hat or a binder or makeup if it's the other way around. So, it's a bitch. It's a real bitch.
First, I want to be clear about something. Absolutely no bullying or harassment or shade to this person whatsoever. I'm talking about this and covering this video for educational purposes, so you guys can see what's spreading on TikTok and the kind of emotional and psychological duress that many members of Gen Z are experiencing because of gender ideology. I do not want and I don't support anyone being mean or unkind to the people I cover in my videos, so don't do that. Okay, this is for educational purposes, none of that. If anything, people like this deserve our profound sympathy. They're clearly going through it, and they've been hopelessly led astray by a generation of adults and a generation of online influencers that have pushed harmful and nonsensical and incoherent ideas that are billed as solutions, but actually just end up with young people who are hopelessly distressed and confused, like this poor young woman. I mean, her video really does make clear the true, utter incoherence of extreme gender ideology. I mean, what the heck does it mean to feel like a guy at a certain moment? You can't explain that without engaging in extremely crude gender stereotypes. You're not suddenly a biological male. You don't suddenly feel your chromosomes feel different. That's not it. So what does it mean? It means she wants to wear a hat or not have makeup on or other things that she explains in this video. Babe, you might not realize it. In fact, I'm sure you don't realize it, but you're doing sexism. You're assigning things to the sexes and the genders that are just stereotypes. It's fine to be a female who wants short hair and wears a hat and doesn't like makeup, but that doesn't make you a boy. It makes you just a female who's a little different. The idea of gender itself or gender identity in this extreme worldview is just incoherent. It's just becoming meaningless. It essentially means personality at this point, I think. But babe, your personality shouldn't be shifting like this. It shouldn't be randomly shifting before bed or doing a 180 in the middle of the day while you're out and about. Like, that's not normal. And I'm not saying this to be mean, again, but you should speak to somebody about that. You should work on that. That's probably some sort of condition you need to resolve and address. It's not a identity or a demographic trait in the way of just like being gay is. And that's part of what bothers me about videos like this. No matter how much sympathy I have for the individuals involved, you are conflating incoherent nonsense with our identities and our legitimacy as gay people, because it's all unfortunately been lumped under this LGBTQIA plus alphabet umbrella. Well, now people will see this kind of thing and they'll associate it with me when it has nothing to do with me. It literally has nothing in common with being gay and being same-sex attracted and just wanting to live your life and have your family and be. It has nothing to do with this, but it's all being conflated and people feel like they have to accept it all or accept none of it. And so the world's turning against, at least parts of it, are turning against the LGBT community because they haven't gatekept. And gatekeeping is actually good. It's ironically used as like a dirty word in woke circles, but it's actually good. It is moral and just and right to gatekeep incoherence and insanity out of your movement if your goal is to achieve acceptance and tolerance for that movement. Of course it is. But hey, when you don't gatekeep, you end up with this kind of nonsensical stuff lumped into your activist movement, and people dismiss your entire cause and your entire community as a result. That's really harmful for the people involved who are being confused hopelessly by incoherent ideological nonsense, and for the people who are being caught up in it, the everyday normal LGBTs who just want to fit in and live their lives, who are being ridiculed by association with this kind of stuff. And again, just a little bit of parenting advice. Do not let your kids on TikTok. Don't let them be exposed to this kind of thing. And if you do, make sure that you're having conversations with them about it. You're highlighting legitimate resources. You're explaining this stuff to them so they don't just, as impressionable young minds, fall victim to this predatory ideology that tells people there's a hope for them and that if they just adopt this identity, then they'll feel better about everything. And then when they don't, they just go deeper into it. It's really sad stuff. My heart goes out to this individual, and my heart goes out to everybody who's been led astray by extreme gender activism. It really is toxic stuff, and we've got to return, not to trad ultra conservatism, gender roles. No. We've got to return to saying that there's two biological sexes, but people, can live however they want, right? If you're a male, you don't need to be masculine. It's okay to be effeminate. If you're a female, you don't need to wear makeup. You don't have to have ponytails. You don't need to like pink. None of that. Get rid of all the gender stereotypes nonsense and just let people be. Today, we're going to react to one of the sickest and most demented TikTok videos I've seen in some time. And that is saying something. This woke TikToker was asked to explain how one should explain kink and fetish to a under 10-year-old child who they brought to Pride and was exposed to these things. Really bizarre and disturbing stuff. Trigger warning to anyone with common sense. You're about to hear some brain rot. Let's take a look.
Did you have fun today, kiddo? It was your first Pride Parade. That's amazing. We saw a lot of new things. Did you see anything that you have questions on? Those were different, huh? I don't think you've ever seen anything like that before. But different isn't bad, right? It's actually really important that we have different things. Can you imagine if we only had one flavor of ice cream? That'd be real boring real fast. So those people were doing a type of adult dress up. And just like when you put on your dinosaur costume and that makes you feel good, when they put on those things, it makes them feel really good. You're a smarty pants, and you're right, sometimes. It can be about that, but not always. There are details about this that I can't share with you yet, but we can keep having conversations, and I'm never going to lie to you about it. And whether it's about that or not, guess what still applies? Consent, you're right. Do you remember what we talked about for consent? Let's talk about it more.
This is demonic, demented, and disturbing. I don't know why this individual felt that this video needed to be made, because the correct answer is that you should not need to be talking to under 10s about kink or fetish or anything of the sort. That is bizarre and strange and inappropriate. They do not need to be exposed to that. And also, if you're saying, oh, well, I need to talk to them about it because they saw it at Pride, do not take your children to Pride events if there's going to be kink and fetish on display. I've said this for a while about Pride stuff. Pick one, kids or kink, because you can't have both, at least not unless you're really, really sick in the head. You guys, you can tell I'm getting frustrated by this, right? And that's because as a gay person, I have personally had people lie about me and say horrible things and peddle in grotesque stereotypes that gay people are out to get children or are predators. And that was a trope that was thrown at gay people for decades and is not statistically true. But then you have idiots like this woman who's probably just a woke straight white woman cosplaying as queer, actively affirming those stereotypes by being creepy towards kids and posting about it on the internet. It really upsets me. It gives the entire community a bad name. It gives perfect fodder to those who want to continue those stereotypes against us. And it is genuinely harmful towards minors who are vulnerable and need to be protected, not exposed to adult content or have adult ideas and values and priorities pushed onto them at young, impressionable, underdeveloped ages. It is so wrong. It's so disturbing. And it is a microcosm of everything that's wrong with the online fringe of the LGBT community. Guess what, guys? You are gifting the haters, the actual bigots of the world, the perfect ammunition to use against all of us, to smear all LGBT people as groomers or whatever with stuff like this. So I am begging these people, once and for all to stop mixing kink and kids. It's sick, it's demonic, it's possessed, it's evil, it's bizarre, and more than anything else, stop posting this kind of creepy, bizarre nonsense on the internet. I've had enough. I'm sick of it, and I can't stand it. I can't stand what they're doing to our community. There's a reason progress and acceptance is going backwards, not forwards, for the first time in decades. It's really, really harmful stuff, and it needs to stop. You guys let me know what you think of that demonic little video in the comments below, and do hit that like button to reward my suffering, because I just lost at least a dozen brain cells watching that insanity. Today, we're going to react to a crazy, crazy woke trans TikTok that I'm almost convinced isn't real. Let's take a listen and you'll see what I mean.
Hey everyone! I just wanted to talk today about ways we can use words to make people feel included in the conversation. One of the words I see thrown around a lot that can make people feel left out is the word mother.
Bruh.
It's better if we use the term birthing people. There are a lot of people that can give birth that aren't traditional mothers. That includes trans men. Another word that I see just tossed around is babies. It's much better if you use a gender non-specific term for children that young until they can decide what their gender is and pick it for themselves. So it's much better if you can use the term babies.
Isn't
that
baby
allows them
already
to have
neutral?
autonomy, and it allows them to choose their gender instead of just assigning it to them at birth. Another term that I see used a lot is cervix or womb or uterus. It's much better if you use a more general term like reproductive organs. So these are just some really small changes that we can make in our vernacular that helps people feel more included in the conversation and not left out. And it just goes a long way. So anyways, try making those changes and let me know how it goes. Bye, everyone.
So no, I am not about to get outraged and up in arms over this, because this is a bit. I am at this point 100% convinced that this Josh dude is a conservative or a right-winger, and he's doing a satirical bit pretending to be a trans woman and then intentionally being hyperbolic to the point of absurdity. There's no way he actually thinks this. There's no way this is real. And there are many conservatives and Republicans and other, even just moderates, who are just think this is real and are getting upset in the comments and like, don't fall for it. It's bait. That's what I have to explain to people, that the internet incentivizes a form of content known as rage bait, intentionally divisive stuff that's supposed to get hate comments that then boost it in the algorithm. And you'll notice this TikTok's over a minute long. That means he's monetizing it in the creator fund. So the more hate comments he gets, the more triggered people get, the more it will get viewed and promoted, and the more money he'll make. And he's literally just cashing in on trolling people. There's no way this is serious. It's like totally incoherent. Obviously, some of this stuff is real stuff that actual woke people have said, but even they be versus baby. Baby is already a gender neutral term. So cervix is also not a gendered term. They would, like, even the woke people say, well, you should say cervix haver instead of woman, but they're not trying to cancel cervix. Like, this isn't real. That's the thing that people need to understand. We already knew. This isn't real. Get mad about it if you want, guys. I see you all in the comments. I see your reaction videos, but you're falling for the bit. And it's not a great look to fall for what is, at this point, indisputably satire, in my opinion. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments below of Josh's content in this video. Am I right? Am I wrong? Let me know in the comments. Today, we're encountering, and this seems to be something of a theme with communist TikTok, but another truly bloodthirsty video targeting the rich. For context for audio listeners, she's reacting to and discussing two headlines, one of which shows an increase in wealth among the richest Americans, and the other shows a homelessness crisis on the rise. Now let's take a listen to what she had to say, and try not to lose too many brain cells.
Bone the French and get the guillotines out. We need to start chopping these heads off and throwing them like basketballs. How the hell can these two photos exist in the same society? We've got the richest 1% richer than they've ever been, and the poorest among us poorer than they've ever been. We've got people that can't afford to eat. They don't know when their next meal gonna come from. They live it in their cars while working 2 jobs because they can't afford rent. They can't afford basic necessities, food, shelter. Come on now. You got people rationing their damn insulin, people not being able to go to the dentist so their teeth are rotting out of their mouth because they can't afford it. And we're supposed to think that this is acceptable? Hell no. These people should be scared to post pictures in front of their private jets and on their boats on a holiday, while the rest of us don't know if we're going to be able to afford groceries for the rest of the month, while we got to pick up second jobs and turn our hobbies into monetization so we can afford to keep up with the rising trend and rising costs of things. Come on. We gotta revolt. We gotta start chopping these damn heads off. Get to chopping.
Babe, when you find yourself advocating for chopping people's heads off who haven't directly harmed you, you might not be the good guy. You might not be the good guy in this situation, in this scenario. You might actually be the villain. Again, it is just so wild to me how these people can literally call for violence on TikTok. But I regularly get my videos hit with strikes or taken down for hate speech or other silly nonsense, but literal calls for violence are fine if they're targeting the rich. And don't hit me with the, oh, she's just being hyperbolic, she's just being this here. No, they mean this. People like this, at least, actually mean this. And that's what's crazy to me, because I can understand if you don't understand economics and you have a lot of class envy wanting to tax billionaires out of existence. I can understand how somebody would end up with that viewpoint. I disagree, but let's have that debate. But to want to murder them, y'all are just sick in the head. If you want to murder successful people for the crime of being successful and their families, their loved ones, their friends, all be damned. Like, that's sick. That's really messed up. It's really wrong, but unfortunately it is representative of where at least a chunk of the young socialist left is moving in this country. And that's really, really frightening. And I do want to talk about this on the substance as well, because it is just so misleading and so wrong in so many ways. One of which is using these headlines that say, in this case, let's see exactly what the headline said. It said, United States, CNBC reports the wealth of the top 1% has hit a record high of 44.6 trillion. So you see these headlines a lot, but what you have to understand is that's essentially just referring to stock market valuations that have gone up. And they never show you the opposite headline when the stock market dips. Wealthy lose 6 trillion in one day. They never have the same energy for those headlines, right? So it's very misleading to just focus on these peak valuations that are not actual money in their pockets anyway. It's just the stock valuations of their companies they own and that kind of thing. But then they never have the same energy for when the stocks go back down. So you'll see wealthy gain $5 trillion in 1 week as the headline, but they never do the follow-up headline the next week when it goes back down, like wealthy lose 5 trillion, because there's no sympathy for the wealthy. And I'm not saying there should be, but I'm just saying this is a very incomplete way of looking at the picture. The other thing is that we don't have all these valid social problems that this young woman identified. High grocery prices, high prescription drug prices, high housing prices. None of that is because billionaires exist. The reasons for that are complicated, but in the case of prescription drugs, there are so many government regulations that make drugs unnecessarily expensive. They block us from ordering the exact same drug that's way cheaper just from Canada or other places in many cases that we should just be able to get and should be over the counter. And there's so many other things that go into this that are causing this problem. And most of them are rooted with the government, and it's meddling in our economy and it's corruption. But instead, y'all just want to save all your smoke and all your energy for the Elon Musks and Jeff Bezoses of the world who got successful through some shady things here or there. I'm not saying they're angels, but by and large, by running successful companies that employ people and contribute to the economy and add massive value to all of our lives, yet you want to demonize them to the point of literally advocating for violence. I'll never understand that energy. I'll never share that energy. That simply couldn't be me. And another funny thing about this that I do want to point out is that according to Reason, and this is from 2021, so these numbers are a little outdated, but it gives you the picture of what I'm trying to say. You could confiscate the entire net worth, all the money of the billionaires in the US, and you would fund our government, federal, state, and local, for about 6 months. Then you'd be out of money and you'd just be done. So the idea that you could solve all our social problems by just stealing all these people's money, you couldn't even pay for what we're doing now by doing that, let alone all this new stuff that you want to do. It's a simplistic, naive narrative that is attractive in its simplicity and in its offering of a false solution. If we just taxed the rich more, we could solve all these social problems. Well, there's a couple problems with that. One is that we already tax the rich quite a bit. We actually have a pretty progressive federal tax system. Two, there's economic consequences from just overly taxing rich people that would affect everyone, right? Everyone who has a retirement account would be hurt by some of these taxes targeting the stock market. The corporate tax increases end up hurting workers through lower wages and fewer jobs. All of these things have more effects than just the rich, who obviously I'm not overly sympathetic to, but it's more complicated than just that. And two, a lot of these social problems are actually a lot more complicated than just throw money at them and we could solve them. If throwing money at homelessness, for example, could solve that issue, well, San Francisco and other places in California wouldn't have the homelessness epidemic that they have, right? Because they've spent so much money. In the same way, we spent trillions and trillions of dollars. There's like crazy graphs on this, throwing money at welfare programs to end poverty, and the poverty rate barely budges in response to it. So you can't just throw more money at these problems and hope that they'll be solved, because it doesn't actually solve the complex and nuanced systemic issues at the core of some of these issues. So my first concern with videos like this is just their like bizarrely bloodthirsty nature and what it says about our culture, that anyone thinks it's okay to talk about their fellow Americans like this and genuinely simp for their death. That really does disturb me on just a fundamental moral level. But on another level, even videos that are less extreme but still have this kind of worldview frustrate me because they cannot see the forest for the trees. They're so obsessed with class envy that they're totally disregarding basic principles of economics, and they're offering people false hope in an empty solution that sounds great but can't actually address complicated social issues in the simple, easy fix the way that they claim they can. If you ask me, misleading people with false hope like that isn't compassionate, it's cruel.
Oopsies! Uncle needs to worry about Uncle. Because, sometimes people use different words to talk about the same thing. Like how your friend JD loves couches.
Oh my God.
Some people call it a sofa. I know inclusion makes you have big feelings, friend. But having different words helps everyone feel comfy and happy. Them feeling included doesn't take anything away from you. Oh, not everyone feels the same way as you. Well, were they bothering you? Were they trying to boss you around? Okay, so please notice that you are coming all the way over here just to be unkind to someone who is using a different word than you. That's silly goose behavior, friend. Oh, hon, you can say breastfeeding as much as you want. You can whisper it in your hand. You can yell it into a pillow if you just gotta let it out, okay? Because the word breastfeeding is not going bye-bye. Why don't you just go outside with your friends and play in the grass?
I hate this so much. I hate everything about this content. I hate everything about her tone.
I want to die.
And once again, I just have to point out how totally hypocritical and disgraceful it is how Democrats and progressives keep pushing this fake news about JD Vance and the couch.
Fake news. It's fake. Phony. Fake.
It's a meme / a real suggestion that many of them don't realize isn't real, that JD Vance allegedly, in their telling, had sex with a couch and wrote about it in his book. But it's been fact-checked, even by the most liberal fact-checkers. And this isn't in the book. It didn't happen. It all started from some joke a comedian made up.
Calling me a liar? I ain't calling you a truther.
But now progressives just constantly say it, and a lot of their audiences don't realize it's not a real thing. So the same crowd that has complained for years about fake news and how Trump always lies and honestly has a point is doing the same exact thing to own Republicans and conservatives, because none of these people actually have principles or values or integrity.
I will make that hypocrisy hurt.
And in the same way, this is coming from the crowd. Oh, you're dumb and wrong and bad if you are upset by all our new weird woke speak. Really? Because you're the crowd that has lectured us for years that jokes are triggering and traumatic.
That's unbelievably offensive. Microaggression, cultural appropriation, offensive.
And that minor verbal tics or the way we say things can be microaggressions, and also have said that if somebody doesn't use someone's preferred pronouns, that's like a total horrible thing.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
And now you're saying people can't get mad about word choice? Interesting. I mean, I also think it's dumb to get all worked up over someone saying chest feeding instead of breastfeeding. Like, I would also not really waste my energy on that. But it seems more than a little bit hypocritical coming from the woke left, because they've acted like words are bullets for years now. So if some people are offended or feel, particularly I think women feel erased or degraded by some of this language, I thought you were the all feelings are valid crowd, the words have power crowd. And now you're telling people to basically shut up and cope and suck it up?
Suck it up! Be a man and rub some dirt in it!
Interesting how your philosophy and beliefs really only seem to go one way. Moreover, what really bothers me about this person's content is the way that it essentially panders to fans while doing nothing except inflaming and dividing people who don't agree with you and just antagonizing them. It's like, I'm sure you're doing great in the algo. I'm sure you're making that creator fund money.
And all you can talk about is money.
But like, all you're doing is encouraging out-of-touch liberals who hate their Republican family members and then maddening and insulting people on the other side. Like, you're just making everyone worse and our dynamics in our fraying country worse in a small way. I just don't know how you feel good about that.
You disgust me. Go on.
When that's all you do and all your content, it's like you're literally only having a negative impact. I guess you're making money.
Money, I want more money.
But I mean, I wouldn't feel good about doing that with my life personally. And before people hop in the comments and say, it's just a joke, no one takes this seriously, that's just not true. I mean, she's got so many adoring viewers who write in her comments about how much they love this and how they need to start talking to Republicans like this, which is not a good idea. But let's look at a few of these comments, huh? One person says, your friend JD loves couches. Laugh emoji, laugh emoji, laugh emoji. Yeah, I'm sure the same person gets all up in arms when Trump spreads fake news. But of course, it's fine when we do it. It's fine when we attack Republicans with it.
It's called the double standard, Bobby.
Really disgraceful stuff. Somebody else says, you need to be a teacher for the MAGA reprogramming camp.
Cough Hitler.
You see, the thing is, I'm like pretty sure that's a joke. But the fact that I'm not 100% sure, that it wouldn't shock me if some percentage of Democrats these days actually did want to send MAGA people to reprogramming camps, kind of shows you how far we've gone and just how off the rails our society is.
This is fine. I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently.
I need to start talking to my in-laws like this. That's a very bad idea, babe. That's not going to work out well for you. That's not going to lead to harmony or happiness in your family life. And you're just going to look like a jerk and incredibly obnoxious and insufferable. So maybe don't do that. You guys, let me know what you think of Miss Frazzle's latest video in the comments below. And do you agree with me that she's essentially just a force for social division and destruction? I mean, I really see no positive or redeeming value to this content, but hey, maybe I'm missing something. So do let me know in the comments below.